Hello and welcome to Eco Girl in a Modern World. My name is Shelley and my channel is dedicated to talking about how to be environmentally friendly in a modern context. Now, today's video, we're going to kind of recap the last video. The reason that I felt like I needed to kind of go over a few new developments with what's going on with Barbiecore.
And I needed to clarify a little bit of the facts that I got wrong in the last video. But I will be ending this video with how our consumerism, especially with trends like Barbiecore and Mermaidcore, play into climate. So if you want to jump straight to the inclement weather part of the video, I have everything timestamped below. I do
also want to apologize. My camera is a little bit older and it likes to see me slow down in my speech. It's because I'm seeing the little circle that's showing me that, okay, I might not be filming in time. So I apologize for any audio lag and I apologize for my video being clunky. I will, upgrade equipment as I go. But any technical issues, let me apologize in advance. Now, the reason I wanted to do Barbiecore part 2 is because trends are very, very important. Trends, when these kind of trends come out, like you saw with Mermaidcore and Barbiecore, that's where we put our money. And our buying dollar is what goes towards the things that we use, hopefully use, and the things we wear. And what the things that we wear, so 5 minutes after the trend has come and gone is what goes into landfills, and that's what, affects our environment and, and contributes to gas emissions in their creation and how they're flown around the world as merchandise. So that's why I stress the importance of these trends. But the modern girl part is that I understand. I'm attracted to all of the trends that are going out. When it comes out, there's a reason why it feels so warm and homey. And the other thing is, if you've watched my fast fashion video, when you spend money or we're kind of born consumers, after the Second World War, the boomer generation, to consume is what we do. That's what we were raised to do. There's an a release of endorphins when you purchase something, when you buy something for your home, or when you buy somebody. It makes you feel good, but it also stimulates the economy, therefore marketing plays into that. But a lot of times some of these trends you don't really need, and we don't really think about the function, and the things that don't serve a function is what ends up in landfills or ends up poisoning things, like painting your room pink with latex paint but not disposing of it properly. So that's why I stress these trends and talking about today. So first off, since the last time we met, you've probably seen the pink explosion.
In the last video, I talked about how when the movie, pictures of the movie being filmed, the Barbie movie being filmed, hit the internet, searches for Barbiecore went up by 44%, and that was just from the pictures being leaked on the internet. It wasn't even the marketing that has come out in mass now, right? It has been a pink explosion. I have seen it everywhere. Barbie everything. And we talked a little bit about the origin of pink, because pink, the color, kind of plays into this. And I just wanted to quickly recap and get some of my facts straight from last video. Is kind of a femme fatale pink. It's a really conniving, it has a connotation of being a wicked woman kind of pink, right? And where that sourced from was Elsa Schiaparelli. You see a lot of Valentino now wearing pink, but back in the day, in the 30s, there's an Italian designer named Elsa Schiaparelli who actually created shocking pink. And what shocking pink is a very vibrant pink. And as we talked in the last video, pink itself is just white with red. And the debate of whether or not pink is actually a male color versus a female color, because it's literally just a toned down. And red is Aryan, it's Aries energy, it's action energy, it's very masculine. How that became a woman's power color, it's almost like women taking on a masculine kind of aura.
But Sciaparelli created something called shocking pink, and I thought, in the last video I got my facts wrong. I thought that Sciaparelli had seen a Cartier piece of jewelry with a ruby in it. And rubies can be different tones. Like rubies can be very raspberry colored and more of that pink color, right? And what I had thought is, the reason in the last video I thought that she had seen a member of the royal family wearing it, but actually who she saw an American heiress, which is almost like American royalty in a sense, named Daisy Fellows. And Daisy Fellows was the heiress, the daughter of the woman who created the Singer sewing machine. So you can only imagine how much mad. She was filthy rich, and she was really not a nice character at all. She was really quite a piece of work. She did heavy drugs in the 30s. She was very blatant about it. She was rude to people. She was nasty. And the funny thing is, she used to steal husbands and boyfriends. Like, she was very, like, kind of all over the place, but she can kind of do whatever she wanted because she was rich, right? But what's the reason that Sciaparelli created this pink is because she saw Daisy Fellows wearing a ring, and it actually was a Cartier ring that had a French name, but in French it meant ram's head, and it was a large ruby that was that really bright pink ruby. Now, where I thought that she had seen it was because the same type of stone Cartier used in what they call a tutti frutti necklace. It's a beautiful, and it's the same type of ruby that's in the ram's head ring, but it was used in, there was a, if you Google for tutti frutti Cartier, you will see this color stone. That is the inspiration for shocking pink. And the reason why I thought it was related to the royal family is because Lady Mountbatten, which sounds familiar because she was the aunt by marriage to Philip Mountbatten, which is Prince Philip, King Consort of England. He married Queen Elizabeth II, right? But so yes, Cartier, that's where you think, okay, the super wealthy debutantes and royalty wore these, and it was a power color. It's definitely a power color. But Sciaparelli was fascinated with the color pink, and that's where she got the inspiration for shocking pink, which really became the hot pink that came through. Now, another softer pink is, and I actually got the Sciaparelli story confirmed in The Secret Lives of Color, but just really quick, the other softer pink, and I may have to put my readers on, is called Baker Miller pink. And that's that more Barbie pink that you see. And Baker Miller pink was actually created in the 70s. And, judge me here, I've got readers. After, in the late 70s, American cities were scourged by a wave after wave of drug epidemics and spiking violent crime. So in late 79, a professor announced that he had found a way of making people less aggressive. And over the course of the year, they conducted numerous tests that they basically said that this level of pink helps calm people. It helps give a sense of peace. And if you watched my last video, we talked about that. Pink seems to be like the feminine, receptive.
Barbie was women's lib without it having such a hard edge. But the crazy thing is that color pink in the last video we talked about it. That color pink was really associated with men wearing it. Like it was actually more used in Ivy League schools in New England states. A lot of men wore it, which kind of got it associated with the young urban professional male, and that's why you do see and this is where honestly the powder pink polo, and I actually saw a powder pink shorts on a man just today. So it's still, the debate rages on that that women kind of took this color from men, but basically over the years it became powder pink became Barbie pink.
And actually, I'm seeing a lot of this too. I mentioned in the last video, I saw a statistic with the Barbie movie where LA, Los Angeles, used up all the pink paint to make the sets for Barbie. And now I'm seeing powder pink with paint companies. And where this plays into it, as I mentioned in the beginning,
the Barbie movie is sparking off a lot of consumerism, But let me go into, I promised I'm going to go into my likes before I get into the dislikes of dissing, how it's bad. Because the modern girl side of this is that all of this is kind of fun, right? We see how powder pink is peaceful, right? We did talk in the last video about how sometimes that can be a little bit of a trauma response. You kind of saw the rise of the girly girl after the pandemic, and it's some of the videos that I posted in the links to the YouTube videos last time in the Barbiecore video talked a lot about how sometimes diving into a hyper feminine kind of way of dressing is sometimes a trauma response. It's almost like owning your femininity or wanting to kind of forcing yourself into that peaceful mode by wearing all pink, right? And I kind of feel like that movie, the Barbie movie, is really stirring up a lot of that. I talked before about how there's a lot of deep subtext in this movie, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. Actually, let's jump into that now. In the story of how Ruth Handler created Barbie, she saw the only fashion dolls that her daughter Barbara had were paper dolls, right? You could put little fashions in a paper doll, but little girls in the 50s did not have a doll that they could actually dress up. It was all baby dolls, right? They didn't have a full-size woman doll, and her daughter was emulating, she was giving that paper doll the characteristics of an adult woman because she wanted to emulate that. So that's where the idea for Barbie was born. Now, just a few quick facts. Barbie, the doll, actually had a father named Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan was the man who actually created all of how the doll itself and how the doll moved. He patented the doll itself. Now, there's a little bit of scandal about that because Jack Ryan actually, when he did that, Mattel, Ruth Handler and her husband's company, committed to give him 3% of all of Barbie's sales for the life of Barbie because, of course, they didn't know how big Barbie was going to be. And it turned out to be a lot of money. Now, Jack Ryan was a pretty chauvinistic guy. And actually, if there's 2 documentaries you can watch if you really want to get all the dirty deets about him, is there's the Toys That Made Us docuseries on Netflix. And there's also the Toys That Built America on Hulu. Those 2 are excellent resources for the story of Barbie and a lot of other cool toys. But Jack Ryan was not the greatest character. He was pretty much a womanizer, and it's funny, he eventually had a pretty bad falling out with major lawsuits that Mattel had. Now, Ruth Handler also had a lot of struggles too. She created this doll. Throughout it was controversial how the doll started, and then, later she really got, she got a lot of kickback from feminists saying that, Barbie was keeping the image of women shackled into this feminine stereotype. But Ruth Handler actually later was forced to resign from Mattel because in the late 70s, she actually had a scandal about her fudging some of the numbers of the proceeds of what she was making, and I don't know if that was from the losses that she was Jack Ryan, or if it was just a downturn in the market activity. But she did try to hide the fact that they were not making as much money, and she got called to court. And Mattel, her own company, had to force her out and kind of fire her, and she left the company in disgrace. One other Barbie did come out in 59, and I kept saying 49. She came out in 59, so Barbie was really only around for 1 year in the 50s, and then she was really big in the 60s. Now, again, Ruth Handler got forced out of her own company, and then actually in the early 80s, Handler also got diagnosed with breast cancer, which
is really traumatic. You think about the woman who created this lexicon for what women are. Now, on that note as well, when she left Mattel and was no longer working in the toy business, Ruth Handler did go on to create prosthetic breasts for women who have had mastectomies, for women who have had to have their breasts removed because of breast cancer. So if that tells you anything about her character and how much she wanted to represent women. And she actually, one of the quotes that I like the best about Ruth Handler is she said that, you know, it wasn't that she wanted to make Barbie a stewardess or that she didn't want to make Barbie a doctor. She said that Barbie showed the world as it was. She was not trying to change the world. She was showing the world as it was. And those dolls inspired women to want to be a doctor so there could be a Dr. Barbie. And there was. There was a surgeon Barbie. There was an astronaut Barbie. It led the way in a lot of ways. That inspiration alone went a long way. You know, but to put that, you know, emphasis, to put that weight on a toy maker, you know. But I don't think she was a bad person. And actually in the 90s, she was brought back in a blaze of glory, you know, by the CEO at that time. Now, I'm not going to say that Mattel was never cutthroat, though. Ruth Handler was cutthroat. You know, the competition in any market, in any field is really, really tough. And I did not know that there was such a competition. You know, when you look at Kenner and you look at Hasbro, you know, like, for instance, Mattel made the Disney movie dolls.
And in the last video, I thought that it was Ruth Handler. I'm a child of the 80s, so when Gem and the Holograms, you know, like the rocker dolls came out, another mistake that I got wrong in the last video is that Barbie is not a 12.5-inch doll, she's an 11.5-inch doll. And Hasbro dolls, or Gem and the Holograms, are 12.5-inch dolls. And it's funny, you'll see the separations between those. That's why Barbie clothes never fit Gem or vice versa, right? It's like a little nuance you can tell, and that almost is like an unspoken chasm of difference between these two competing toy companies. The other thing is that there were other dolls that try to go up against Barbie, like Maxie, and I think Kenner did have a doll in the 70s that was a fashion doll that was a 12.5 size, and her clothes fit Gem dolls. So, but what had happened is in the 80s, in 83, Hasbro putting the Gem and the Holograms, and of course they kept it really hush-hush. You talk about the Coca-Cola recipe being under lock and key. This was under lock and key because they did not want Mattel finding out about it, right? And the CEO of women's toy line at the time was Judy Shackelford. And Judy Shackelford is no BS, guys. I was watching this documentary, and you know what? She had a legion of intel, and she called them the Pink Berets. This is how hardcore it got wind that Hasbro was working on a doll that was going to compete with Barbie, but they had no idea. Mattel didn't know what they were working on.
She sent in the Pink Berets, no kidding. And she got word. She goes, I know what it is. It's a rock star doll. And Judy Shackelford was not having it. She was like, okay, that's all I need to know. At this time in the 80s, it takes 18 months to come out with a new doll. And they, in 16 hours, they figured out how they were
going to use the dolls that they already had in production and the clothes and the equipment,
like the plastic guitars that they already had on hand. And they were going to get out Barbie and the Rockers in 4 months before Gem. And they did that, and it made it look like Gem was copying. Mattel got wind of Gem and was just trying to cut him off at the knees. So I thought that was a little kind of interesting because that's how competitive these toys get, and that was in the 80s, right? So don't screw with, you know, Judy Shackelford either, and she's well earned her pension at this point, right? But so Barbie persevered. Now, the reason that I kind of go through this is that there's a lot of core morals in this story, and that's what you kind of want to think about before you go out and buy all this stuff, right? The other thing that I noticed that with the movie, you know, just like we mentioned, Mattel was cutthroat, right? They didn't like competition, obviously. And a few of the other famous lawsuits that came about with Mattel is by the 90s, you know,
you got into kind of the grunge era with young women. It wasn't the same world anymore. You know, you didn't have, it wasn't all Caucasian with, you know, big 80s makeup and bright 80s makeup and big blonde hair. It didn't look like you were on the cover of a Sports Illustrated, you know, magazine, right? The 90s really gave it
permission to have curves and things like that. So Barbie was really, you know, even if they shot down the rest of the competition, they were coming up on a change in climate with their with their market audience. Now, one thing that did come about were 2 lawsuits. You know, the first lawsuit is that in 97, Aqua, and I mentioned in the last video, that song was really, God, they sued the heck. It was a Swedish band that did the song Barbie Girl. And the thing is that Barbie, for all of her voluptuousness, she does have an image of being a positive role model to young girls. The song, you know, you can, just like Weird Al Yankovic makes parodies of songs and therefore he cannot be sued, even though he has been sued for a few of them. If it's a parody, there's 2 ways that you can get around copyright issues with stuff like that. If you're doing a parody, like you're making fun of a song or contrasting it for its idiosyncrasies, you can kind of get away from the copyright with that. The other thing is if you're using it for educational reasons. And even now, like if I played Barbie Girl, after about 30 seconds, I would be cited here, you know, for copyright infringement because of current laws, right? But what Aqua, the way that Aqua's was not a parody is that they said stuff like, you know, I undress you, you know, take me anywhere, undress me everywhere. It was really almost a defamation of character. It was kind of understated, you know, talking about all the dirty stuff that you do with a Barbie. So I can kind of understand why they got sued the heck out of. And I'm kind of glad, because that song annoyed the crap out of me and my ex-boyfriend used to play it all the time. Why I didn't dump his ass for it, I'm going to come into that again in a minute. But they sued the hell out of them and they eventually settled out of court. And when you see this movie, they're probably going to use clippets of that song, but I guarantee you they're probably not going to use any of the parts that are, you know, a deformation of Barbie's character. The other thing is that the other big lawsuit that they had that's going to play into the movie that I think is kind of funny is by the late 90s, early aughts, someone who had worked for Mattel went over to a new toy company and came out with BRATZ, right? And if you remember, BRATZ were huge. They were racially, you know, you couldn't really tell the ethnic background of any of the girls, and that was welcome. That was like a welcome change from what Barbie was. She, you know, Barbie was way too Caucasian. It was just like, you know, let's have some diversity, right? The other thing is that the face shape and the Barbie size, it was new, it was different. It wasn't your stereotypical Barbie doll. But the first thing is that, yes, they were competitions. So just like Judy Shackelford wasn't having it with the Gem doll, you know, coming on the scene, BRATZ was huge competition. It cut into their market share really badly. The other thing is that it being a former Mattel employee, did he take the model of the doll over with him? Did he steal their concept for the doll? And it's funny, that legal battle went on for like 9 years back and forth. And that at some points Mattel owned BRATZ, and then at some point it reverted back. And this was them as the battle went on. Mattel won rights and then they countersued or sued again, or I forget what you call it when you clap back and say, no, I want to take this up to the Supreme Court, you know? And eventually, I think by the time that it actually got settled that the other toy company owned BRATZ, at that point, other companies like Monster High and stuff had gotten in on the game, and, you know, they were both losing out, so it just got settled. Now, where this comes into the Barbie movie that's going to be really funny is that there's a cameo with Western Barbie talking to 4 girls at a lunch table, and the 4 girls are like kind of razzing her going, I haven't played with a Barbie since I was 5. Those look like the Brat girls.
So I don't know if Mattel kind of poked fun at themselves. I don't think they can put Gem and the Holograms in this because that's a completely different, they didn't have a 10-year legal battle with Hasbro. But yeah, the last cameo that you might want to look for in that movie that I thought was interesting was just that at the end of the movie, and this is just from the previews, there is a moment where you see Margot Robbie's Barbie sitting on a bench, and when the closed captioning is on, it says there's another older woman who looks like she's in her 80s, and the closed captioning says Ruth, like Ruth Handler, and Ruth Handler died in 2002. But I'm looking at this woman. So this woman is, Ruth is talking to Barbie on the park bench. And that's like, it's a real emotional scene, guys. It's really going to punch you in the feels. And that was just like 10 seconds of it. But it said Ruth. And when I freeze framed it and I looked at it, and this woman looks a lot like Ruth Handler, but she's not Ruth Handler because Ruth Handler passed. And guys, I think this is Barbara Handler. I think this is Ruth Handler's daughter, the child that she named Barbie after. So you've got Barbie and Barbie sitting on a park bench talking to each other in this movie. And the other thing is Barbara is playing her mother. So again, a lot of subtext. The reason that, when I talk about these movies, it's like they're kind of deep, right? The color pink is a calming color. It's meant to give comforts in times of distress, right? But it's also very commercialized too, right? So let's bridge into that. I'm definitely probably going to see the movie, but it's funny. Barbie is coming out the same day as Oppenheimer, which is the atomic bomb movie, and they're actually doing double features. They're calling it Barbieheimer. You can watch both. I might. It kind of feels like an explosion of pink, and I do not mean that in a morbid way at all, but it does kind of feel like that. But to get into the Barbie movie, and I'm going to start with what I like, because again, it's modern world, right? So, the movie comes out on the 21st. So we're already seeing, again, Mattel has 50 collaborations, and we're going to talk about that again in a minute. 50 collaborations right out the gate. So this is going to be commercialized the heck out of. But Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. First off, let me start with Ryan Gosling. I think he did make a perfect Ken, and as he's on the pink carpet, I'm just noticing little things. First off, he wore a t-shirt. Instead of a t-shirt that said Barbie, it said Greta Gerwig, which I thought was great because the director directed Little Women, and I just thought that was so cool. The other thing is, on one of the pink carpets, he, you know how everybody's wearing necklaces that have bees on it? He had a necklace that had an E on it, and that is for Eva Mendes, which is his they're not married, but it's the mother of his two daughters. And they've been together a long time. And I saw stories where he even said, Eva took a break. She stayed home to raise our children instead of working at the same time. And he goes, I respect the heck out of my wife, my woman, because she takes care of our kids. I wish I could do that. I wish I could be as strong as she is. I just think he's the perfect Ken. The other thing is that he did say that when he was auditioning for the part, one of his kids, he has two daughters, he found a Ken doll face down in the mud next to a squeezed lemon, and he took a picture of it and sent it to Greta Gerwig and said, I am going to be your Ken. His story must be told. And I thought, oh my God, this guy is fantastic. So, and just watching the previews, some of the lines that he says with a straight face, I give him mad acting props for just playing that character without busting out laughing. So, but I like Margot Robbie too. And again, she went to all of the pink carpets, and it was the pink carpets. And again, as an environmentalist, I cringe at all of the backdrops, and how I mentioned earlier how much paint they used for all the sets. I kind of cringe thinking about the landfills in California. When you dispose of pink paint, there's this brings an onslaught of waste. with just the marketing of it. So when I see the pink carpets, it's not like I'm jumping up and down and being like, oh my God. I cringe a lot too. But Margot did look beautiful, and actually what they did is that each of the premieres, and of course it's around the world, it's, you know, in Europe and, you know, on the East Coast, on the West Coast, all around the world. And she's from Australia, but she dressed like different Barbies for each of the premieres, which was really pretty to see. I mentioned in the last video, I'm a day and night Barbie girl, and she looked so pretty. She did the conversion of the suit to the dress. But what I want to stress with this is that when you see this, you go gaga for Barbie, but what you have to remember is she is wearing couture. That day to night suit was a Versace number, and I guarantee you that is brocade silk. It's lined with silk. Any of the netting could very well be wool. And I know you think wool in summer is the anti-polyester. It's natural fiber, and it gives you that net fabric, right? Now, I'll say the phone purse is a Judith Leiber purse, and you've probably seen that on Sex and the City. That is covered in rhinestones, and that is just, it's just kitsch all around. And then, of course, the skirt and everything. What she's wearing is head to toe couture. If you try to dress like her, it's going to be looking like you wore, it's going to be all polyester, and it's going to look like you're wearing a Halloween costume, right? So this is my environmental stance on that, and we're going to go into this again in a minute. Remember, everything that she's wearing is custom made for her, and it's all probably silk and linen. It's going to be natural fibers, and if you try to emulate that, it's probably not going to be very environmentally friendly, and we're going to stress that again in a minute. So that's where we get, you know, we get all heart eyes over what we see. Now the other, so I love the day to night Barbie look. Of course, that's my girl, right? But I have to remember, you know, if I try to turn around and dress like that, I'm probably going to look like, you know, look kind of weird in my daily life. The other one that I really liked was the best-selling Barbie in the 90s. And again, I mentioned all that grunge. You know, during a time of grunge, the best-selling Barbie of the 90s was Totally Hair Barbie. And Totally Hair had the crimps. But what I thought was pretty is what Margot did is that she did have like the outfit, but she had Chanel earrings on. And the ring that she had on was this humongous, almost ruby-like ring. You know how we were talking about Sciaparelli pink? It is an actual stone ring, but the way that it's set makes it look like a Barbie ring. And if you remember the dolls could wear rings, but what they had is this big hole in the hand of the plastic, and she actually emulated the way the ring looks. So, you know, the stone she's wearing is a huge actual stone, and she's wearing Chanel. So you best believe that she's probably, again, wearing natural fibers. That's couture clothes, even though it doesn't look like it. So I really love that ring. I thought that was so freaking pretty, you know. That's me getting hard eyes, you know, over what she's wearing. Now, what's happening is if you decide to emulate this, and there's actually another great YouTuber here that that I'll put a video down below. That she talks about, and it's in a lot of other videos too, that talks about the 2-2 rule. Our eco rules, when you are dressing, you know, like Barbiecore, you want to first buy natural fibers. There is going to be a swarm of plastic, fuzzy, non-biodegradable. Polyester is polyurethane. It's gas, and it doesn't biodegrade. It will be sitting in a landfill leaking chemicals for 750 years, and it's not good for your skin. So the other thing is that it's going to be a sea of that. That's what you're going to see on sale everywhere. So when you think environmental friendly, you want to buy natural fibers, cotton, linen, silk, hemp, wool. And again, wool can be worn in the summertime. It's a net-like fabric, and it's biodegradable, right? You want to buy those natural fabrics. You also want to try to buy them secondhand. If you buy them new, that's in 5 minutes, in a blink, when all of this marketing dies down, The goal is for you to be able to wear that garment as much as you can. There's something called a 30 wears rule. If you're going to buy the hot pink garment, wear it as much as you can. Otherwise, sell it. You do not want to just buy it, wear it once, and think that you can throw it into one of those donation bags and think that it's not going to a landfill. It's going to a landfill, guys. We overproduce clothes. And that's another reason that this video is half climate change, because when those clothes are made, it causes carbon. When they're flown around the world, causes carbon. When they're delivered by Amazon, it causes carbon. And you're wearing it once and throwing it away because it's a trend. But I'm going to post a few videos below. You want to think about what Barbie means to you and dress that way. Like, I like the day to night Barbie, but if I was going to emulate that, I would not look like a Barbie doll. That's for Halloween. I would not do that wearing head to toe polyester. That's not environmentally friendly. But what I can do is I can look for a linen or wool blazer that's pink. And I can do the 2-2 rule. And what the 2-2 rule is that if you are going to go like Barbiecore, have it 2 parts Barbiecore, like 2 elements Barbiecore and 2 elements something else. I like color blocking. I could do, bright pink and then cross it over with 2 other contrasting color blocking. Or you could do 80s. You could do 2-part Barbiecore, 2-part 80s. Mermaidcore, you could cross that over, 2 parts Mermaidcore, 2 parts Barbiecore. But natural fibers, try to buy it secondhand first, and then try to wear it as much as you can. If you can't wear it as much as you can, and buy it with the expectation of wearing it at least 30 times. If you're not going to wear it 30 times, don't buy it. Don't put your buying dollar into the machine. The other thing is that we're born consumerism. We're born consumers, right? I mentioned in my fast fashion video, we have an impulse. It makes you feel good to buy into this stuff. And from the time we're born, we're taught, oh, buy, right? You don't want to do that. If it's going to end up sitting in your closet and not being used. The other thing that plays into function, and that's a big thing, function, right? That's the #1 pollutant, is that we spend money on something that's cutesy, that's going to be out. Like, you can think of any franchise, right? You can, if you like Star Wars and you get the crock pot that looks like the child or looks like R2-D2, that's a niche thing. Why can't you just get a regular crock pot, right? Let it serve its function. Now, I know that's not real glamorous when you want to promote Barbie, but one other thing that I saw the rollerblades, right? Like in the movie, there's going to be a Malibu Barbie where she rollerblades, right? And there's these yellow rollerblades. And that was one other thing that I saw like crazy. Again, Barbie has done 50 collaborations. I see them doing jewelry with Fossil. I see them doing, it's everywhere right now. It is over consumerism at its height right now. And I wanted to talk about the rollerblades because this actually plays into the boyfriend who tortured me with the Aqua song, believe it or not. But I rollerbladed in the 90s. I loved rollerblade. I was a teenager, and there was a paved lake that was a big circuit near our high school, and everyone rollerbladed in the 90s. It was the cool hip thing, and it kept you in shape, right? And all of my friends, to be honest, my parents were divorced at that time, and I was living with my mom, and we didn't have a whole lot of money, right? We were both going to school. It was really hard times. And my dad was helping me out, but rollerblades were really expensive. Rollerblades today are about $230. They were the equivalent of that in the 90s. The equivalent of that in the 90s was like probably about $120 today. And what you would see is you would see a lot of cheap knockoff skates. Like you would see, because what it is rollerblades are sports skates. They're made of plexiglass. They're meant to be light on your feet and durable. They are actually sports equipment, right? And I actually saw this pair of rollerblades that were purple glitter. They were muted. It wasn't real bright purple, but they were a beautiful muted glitter purple, and I actually put them on layaway, and then later I wasn't able to afford them, so they went back onto the floor, and I thought they got sold, right? And my mom and I were scraping and saving our money to get rollerblades for me, and I worked a part-time job. And honestly, guys, I got a little teased. I went ahead and I saved up some money and I bought the cheap skates, right? And this is going to play into Barbiecore in a minute. I bought the cheap skates that had solid metal on the bottom. They weren't fiberglass. They weren't rollerblades. I went ahead and I dropped $50, which was probably the equivalent of about $120 today, on these cheap skates. And I tried to keep up with all the cool girls everyone was just blowing past me. And guys, I was blistered and bloody. They were not sports skates. They looked like rollerblades, but they were made of just metal, and they were sold because they look like what you wanted to buy, right? And I regret buying those skates, right? And then I wasn't able to keep up with anyone, and I look like no one thought, oh, okay, her equipment is bad. They just thought I was a bad rollerblader, right? And later, in the end of that, so when I see these advertisements for the yellow skates that you see in the Barbie movie, these are not rollerblades, guys. I don't think they're made of fiberglass. They're cheaper than the $250 that you would actually spend on actual skates. The other thing is we talked about function, right? If you're going to buy roller skates, if you're going to buy rollerblades can be recycled. There are stores like there's a store called Play It Again Sports. You know, and especially with young children who outgrow, just like you outgrow shoes or helmet sizes, you can donate the equipment back and it can be sold back to someone. So, my thing is, if you go in for the ones that look like Barbie skates, but they end up being those heavy metal ones that just blister your feet and you're not able to keep up with everyone, are you going to keep them? Probably not. You are wasting your money. It's going to go into a landfill. You could try to donate it back, but they're not quality skating equipment. So why do that? And that's one of the draws. Oh, they're Barbie, they're Barbie, they're Barbie. Well, let me finish my story. I bought the cheap skates. I ended up never using them. I think I probably threw them away back in the 90s, which I regret. I regret even buying them, right? And I got really depressed after that. My friends were rollerblading. They were learning the jumps and and it was skate culture. And my mom got out of the blue, and it was a blessing from above. My mom got a windfall of money from, she had entered in for some kind of contest and she won money. And then my dad sent 3 months worth of child support at once. And my mom was like, and then I had saved up a little bit more money from my job. And my mom's like, let's go get your skates. Let's go get your skates. And I went back to the store and I thought for sure that they weren't going to be there. And and this was the second blessing of the universe, is that someone went in the back and they were still on layaway. They didn't put them back on the floor, guys. And so I bought them. And I blew everyone away. I was the fastest rollerblader of anyone. I learned the jumps. I learned the spins. I learned, my friend and I were in our best shape of my lives. And no one ever, ever, ever said that I couldn't rollerblade, ever. And I kept those skates. I actually, in 99, I went to California. So this is my Malibu Shelley story. And I skated in Malibu. And it was using those skates. So you can see the picture here. And I would have probably still had those skates to this day. They did kind of meet an unfortunate end because they were in the trunk of my car at the time, and the trunk of my car wasn't sealed real well. The seal got bad and it got water. We had a really heavy rain and my skates got damaged. But if that hadn't happened, I used them for 15 years, guys. 15 years, and I still rollerblade to this day. So the moral of that story is, if you are looking at the Barbie skates, if you are a rollerblader, don't go with the campy skates, or at least look what they're made of, try them on, test them out. If they're really of good quality, then go for it. If they're not, don't waste your money. That is just the consumerism pit and the trendiness of, oh, I look like Barbie. You know, if it's a Halloween costume, you don't want to be buying something that's going to end up in a landfill or that you can't donate. That's not actual equipment, right? If you want to do Barbie, the other thing is that my purple skates were very Barbie-esque, right? The other thing is that if you want to do Barbiecore, I actually saw quite a few street style things. Like since the movie hasn't even come out yet, I went to the mall, and guys, I just like to people watch. I saw so many people do Barbiecore the human way, the normal way. I saw an older lady who had beautiful silver and white hair, and she had on a light pink, like the Baker Miller pink tank, and then she had a white and pink button down, a white and pink striped button down over it. She looked beautiful. She had some like light wash, light blue jeans on. She looks so Barbiecore, guys. And the other thing is that can very easily be cotton, even if you're buying it new. That was a few things that I did see for all these collaborations that are kind of like, plastic everything. Pact, P-A-C-T, which is organic cotton, had pink dresses. The other thing is Ethique, which does plastic-free shampoo and face washes. I actually use their face scrub. It's very, very good. It's called Ginger Man. It's called the Gingerbread Man. They're coming in pink packaging, so you could participate this without having to jump into. You can be Barbiecore and participate in the fun, but this lady looked beautiful. It was and she looked like a 1960s Barbie. She totally did. And all of that can be organic cotton or bought secondhand. Now a few of the other cotton things. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stick to my notes here. Oh, the Target lady. Sorry. Data Night Shelley. The Target lady, I saw a lady at Target who had a shocking pink, like a bright neon pink, underneath a cotton jumper that was olive colored. So instead of doing head to toe, instead of looking like a costume party with a bunch of polyester, why not do a pop of pink? That seems to be what I'm seeing. Pop of pink looks great. And it looked like a sports tank. It might even have been the top of her swimsuit, which was great because swimsuits have to be the synthetic fabric, but you can use that as a bra, right? The other thing is it lets you interchange your pieces, right? But she had a bright neon pink like sports bra, and over it she was wearing like a jumper that was a more muted color. It was like a dark olive, but it looked like a cotton or linen jumper. And it looked so freaking cute, guys. The other thing is that that's being Barbiecore. The contrast of the real dull muted color with the pop of pink peeking out, I think that looks cooler than any of this head to toe walking around like you're, like in an Aqua video. And then the other thing I saw is just today, just at the coffee shop today, I saw a lady with a bright pink hair clip. I also saw
a lady wearing pink Crocs, so if you already have a pair of Crocs, the purpose really going longer with the items that you already have, like accessories, like shoes and purses and earrings, that goes a long way. I saw a lady with a hair clip. I saw a lady with a pink purse, and we're not that far out from Valentine's Day. If you had like a Valentine's Day that was just a normal structured purse that's in a pink, light pink, soft pink, bright pink, and actually on her tennis shoes, she had a bright stroke of pink. It looked like a watercolor stroke. That's Barbiecore, guys, right? And then the other thing that I saw is that, I saw pops of pink. Pops of pink work great. Now, where I caved, and I'm going to go ahead and confess, where I caved, the other thing is that with all of this marketing, again, our goal is don't buy it brand new. Look at your closet and see what you already have. One other thing is, buy secondhand, and you don't necessarily have to buy it online and have it mailed to you, because of course when you mail things to you, there's a carbon footprint because it's getting flown around the world. Now
I actually went to the antique mall today, guys, just to prove my point. I went to the antique mall and I just walking around today, I said, okay, what's Barbiecore? I saw necklaces. I saw bangles. I saw dresses. And the dress, oh, I saw Sciaparelli pink and it was silk. I saw little pinned floral hats. I saw two-piece, like very Jackie O kind of dresses. But I also saw, and talk about like shocking pink, I saw like a plaid that had a cross of like neon teal in it. I was like, dang, I could work with this. And you go to your antique mall, you bring your own bag, you know, BYOB, bring your own bag. That is environmental Barbiecore, guys. The other thing is, just like we said with the roller skates, look at it and think, do I already have this? And do I really need it? Am I gonna use it? Am I gonna use it, right? Shoes and purses, a dress that you really, really want, bought secondhand, you know, that is of a high quality material, that is gonna have the longevity for Barbiecore long after Barbiecore is this trend has come and gone. The other thing is that, you know, again, I went to Malibu with the boyfriend who tortured me with Aqua, so, you know, hi Ken. You know, if I do hear that song in the movie, at least I'll take some solace in the fact that Mattel sued the crap out of him. Okay, sorry, tangent. Back to the story. But, you know, you can see Barbiecore is going to be huge because where it plays into environmentalism is that, you know, you're going to see a wave of consumerism with it. I saw on the kind of ugly side of it, you know, you see these kind of campy necklaces, or you kind of see pink plastic coasters, and, you know, you see pink poofy tank, you know, bras, and even at Anthropologie, my favorite store in the world, it was just this, it looked like an explosion of polyester netting that it looks cheesy, and I just feel like you're going to buy it once for its value, wear it once. And that's the other thing, is that today's Instagram culture, they don't want to be seen in the same thing twice, and that's scary as hell, guys, because what are you going to do? Is that thing going to sell in 2 weeks after this movie is gone? Are you going to be able to resell it? No. You're going to throw it into one of those bags, and if you watch my donation video, those bags that say, oh, send it back to us, we'll reuse it. Don't trust that, guys. We overproduce clothes. We overproduce clothes. And as much as I love Margot Robbie, I think she's beautiful. I thought she looked beautiful on the red carpet. We have to be mindful of what we're buying. Now, I will call myself out as a hypocrite. The way I got into Barbiecore, the other thing is that it is also Amazon Prime Week. So again, like I said, guys, the consumerism is in a deep, primal, monkey part of our brain. We want to pay money. It makes us feel good. And it actually is a double hit of dopamine, because it feels good when you buy it, and then it feels good when it comes in the mail. It's carbon emissions out into the planet. Carbon emissions created the cheap plastic coasters. Carbon emissions flew it to you, and if it gets thrown into a landfill, the off-gassing of that is going to pollute our water and go. You know, I'm seeing that Airbnb that's all pink, and I'm seeing that paint advertisement that said, oh, we've got, you know, Baker Miller pink. Look, you can paint, you know, you have to, when you're done with paint, you have to take it to your recycling facility, and it has to be disposed of in a special way. Los Angeles just used up all of the pink paint. Where are you going to put all those Barbie sets? Where is Barbie's dream house slide going to go? I'm kind of glad I don't live in Los Angeles, because I can only imagine their landfills. They're probably ugly and full. So, not to be gloom and doom, but, you know, when you're going to get into the Barbiecore craze, see if you can buy it secondhand first, and see what it is about Barbie that you love, right? That's what this is about. Now, the way... my confession, what I got into it is, I did buy 2 things off Amazon. I bought a Sciaparelli ram's head pink ring, and I bought a little book about the history of Sciaparelli, because I'm fascinated by that right now, and it was not at my bookstore. I would buy it at my bookstore if it were there. So I bought a little ring and I bought a little book. The other thing I did do, and I will reiterate this in the toys video, and please feel free to call me juvenile, but I was really fascinated by the fact that, you know, my mom had the original 1959 Barbie doll, and my great-grandmother used to sew little doll clothes for her. So I did buy pre-owned. Again, always buy pre-owned. That if the clothes and the toy is already in existence, then you're keeping it out of a landfill and it's not being produced new. But I did get a doll from 2016 that I thought looked like me, because my mom's Barbie doll looked like her in '59, and I got a little doll that looked like me, I think. She's curvy, she's pear-shaped, she's got curly hair. The back of her hair is all frizzy, and that is me. And I did also buy a little outfit that was handmade in 100% cotton to dress her in. So I just felt like that was kind of my contribute to Barbiecore. I know that sounds really juvenile, but I kind of have it side by side. My mom has her doll, I have mine. And I have Sciaparelli pink, and I do, you saw in the last video, I do have bright pink clothes that I've bought secondhand that I can use. Again, the 2-2 rule, and I'll put it down below. I'm drawing a blank. I watch her channel all the time. She's a great fashionista, but it's a common rule here on YouTube. If you do 2 pieces of, you know, kind of 2 understated pieces and then 2 Barbiecore, almost just like that lady wearing the olive, you know, in contrast to the shocking pink, that's how you style. That's how you style for real life Barbiecore. And that's how you're environmentally friendly with it, you know? And again, buy natural fibers because they biodegrade. Buy secondhand when you can. Buy it in the brick and mortar store using your own bag when you can. If you do buy natural fibers, buy organic cotton because that has the least amount of chemicals. And try not to have it flown around the world, right? Now, and this, like I mentioned, this is at the very end of the video, which I know, you know, I should just call this Barbiecore Part 2. I probably will just do that. But the way that this plays into inclement weather, and I mentioned, and just to tie into Mermaidcore too, this is how trendy it gets. As I was searching, and again, doing this research for this video, Barbie has a Clam purse. Yeah, guys. Just like I said in the Mermaidcore, you don't want to buy accessories that are so kitsch. Don't buy the Clam bag. Barbie has a Clam bag. God, the trends are just shooting me down, guys. I'm fighting the good fight, and I'm not winning because Barbie has a Clam purse. All right, moving on. But it's hard. You see how hard it is. It's like, oh my God, you know, everything that you're fighting for. How do you fight against this? It's a tsunami pink. But the way that this plays into inclement weather is you in my Mermaidcore, the video is called my beach trip recap, which was me coming back from my beach trip, right? Me coming back from my beach trip. While I was on my beach trip, there was really, really bad weather that night. And if you watch the beach trip video, you'll see it. There was a storm off the East Coast, and it was rolling in tornado-like winds. It was scary, guys. And then when I came back from my beach trip, we started seeing the orange skies because there had been wildfires in Canada, in Western Canada. That's north of California and LA, by the way. You know, heat rises, pollution rises, and goes there. And this is Canada, guys. That's a little bit south of the North Pole. How in the hell are they having like wildfires the way that you would? It's not like this is, below the equator where it's more likely to be hot as the blazes in summer. They are having forest fires there that came across the United States, and there were several really bad days. It looked like tomato soup in New York. And then about 2 weeks after that, where I live in the mid East Coast, it really the air quality got horrible, guys. It looked kind of post-apocalyptic. It was scary as heck. If you've ever seen The Matrix, that's what the sky looked like. It was us that burnt the sky, you know? That scared the bejesus out of me. And then this summer, you know, in the while we're getting all excited about Mermaidcore and Barbiecore and I'm dressing up, I'm going to the mall, I'm looking at the news and I'm seeing that there are droughts in certain parts of the United States. There are massive heat waves in certain parts of Europe. And then there are torrential rains in Asia. And what this is doing, my sister always says, and this is something that my father taught us, is you always got to look at the small stories. The stories that aren't getting mass media attention. Those little stories are going to tell you, going to put your fingers on the pulse of what's going on with the environment and the world, both politically, environmentally, socially. And these little stories are really starting to scare me, guys. There's Starbucks will put out a notice that say the price of coffee is going to start going up. Why do you think that is? Because where coffee is grown, the climate is changing. It's getting too hot. It's getting too arid. Where they grow the beans is not consistent enough for them to continue to grow. And that's going to have horrible impact on the growers of these. It's not just, oh, well, why do I have to pay much more? It's already, this much. That is a first world problem. You are going to make the communities that grow this destitute because they cannot continue to grow because they are impacted not by the soil or anything else, but by the climate that's changing. The other thing is other things like the grapes in Argentina, for Malbec wine, that there's a certain aeration in France, where you grow certain types of crops that get flown into us, right? The climate is changing because of us flying too much, of us producing a bunch of Barbie pink crap from plastic and flying it around the world. The other thing is one of the smaller stories is even airlines are experiencing more turbulence because we're flying so much. And it's funny, not to say that it was ever a good thing, guys, but I remember where I live, and I live in the mid-Atlantic. I live flat dab in the middle of the Atlantic coast in the United States. All my life growing up, I had grown up with the weather being really cool in May, April, May, June. It would stay in like the late 60s, early 70-degree weather days. Beautiful days. It wouldn't get real hot until the end of summer. Before the pandemic, it got blistering hot in April and it didn't stop until September. It was 90-degree days or higher more than the summer season. That was a very big red flag. And that was 4 years ago. We had been flying so much and producing so much and creating so much carbon that the climate was changing. And the moment the pandemic hit and everybody couldn't work or had to work from home, and that was detrimental, I'm not saying any of that was good. But did you notice how much the weather improved after that? When we weren't flying, when we weren't driving, when we weren't... It bounced back, it snapped back pretty damn quick. And this year, and honestly, it's always a few years after, right? That wasn't that long ago. About a year and a half after, we got a pretty summer. This last summer, gorgeous. The summer before was really, really on par. It was the way I remembered it in childhood, right? The other thing is, if you watch my video that talked about the United Nations passing that Sea Act, that's another thing that's affected. It's not just the air currents, because climate with us is warm air hitting cold air. That's what causes these tornadoes, right? And actually, just the other day, on Friday, we had a torrential downpour. We've had tornado warnings a couple days. I had a friend post a picture of all the lightning strikes in her area. And that was within an hour span. The same thing happens with water. Cold water hits warm water, and that causes the swirls of storms. That's probably what caused the storm that affected my beach trip. And that was in the beginning of June. So the way this ties into Barbiecore, and I know this is just, 10 minutes at the end after we talked about how great, Barbie is, right? Is that there's a human reason why Barbie's fantastic, right? But all of this marketing that comes along with it is a bunch of crap that doesn't need to be created. The creation of it, the using of plastics is so bad. That's if your house is hit by lightning or picked up by a tornado, it's probably because of that Barbie necklace, right? The pink plastic coasters, the yellow rollerblades that you don't really, that aren't real rollerblades. They just look like they're rollerblades. So when it comes to inclement weather, we are doing this to ourselves, and we are doing this to ourselves with these trends. Don't put your buying dollar towards it if it's just going to be a trend that in a blink is going to be gone. And to be honest, 1 month ago, we were all under the sea with, the Little Mermaid, and now we are all neon pink with Barbie. And we are painting our houses pink. Guys, if you watch the last video, let's not have this be the return of the Mamie Eisenhower. I loved her style, but I don't need a pink bathroom. That's not necessary. I do not want paint created for that, because paint is what we're going to be drinking when it's in our groundwater, because we're throwing it away just because we wanted to emulate Barbie for 2 weeks. Is that worth it? That's what you got to ask yourself. So this is my recap. I started on a good note, and again, like I said, I'm not innocent. I bought things off Amazon. I tried to make them, purposeful in the fact that they're teaching me something. And if I really actually like my little pink ring. I don't think, when I look at it, I think about all that I learned about, Ruth Handler and Sciaparelli and, all of those things, which is the purpose of it. It isn't that you have to go small. It's just go secondhand, go natural fibers. And let's think about the way that we're flying and the way that we're driving. And, it really saddens me the way that this consumerism is really at the core of all of this climate change. It really is. I saw an advertisement about a woman who flew somewhere to get her hair extensions because they were this much cheaper. The cost to the environment for that, oh, let me go get this, these hair extensions. And the other thing is those are real hair extensions. And the reason that they're cheaper is because you're undercutting, you're paying impoverished people for them to cut off all of their natural hair for your superficial thing. That's not a real good deal. And, when you look at labor, and so many people get exploited with this, it's really kind of disgusting, So as much as, I emulate with the human cause, I'm a consumer too. I like to spend money. I went to the antique mall and dropped some money, it's in the primitive part of our brain, but let's just be conscious with how we spend that money. And again, ask yourself, do you need it? Does it serve a function? And try to avoid impulse with all of this pink coming out. And, again, do things that
mean Barbie to you, that make you happy about Barbie, and do it following the eco rules. And then if you get a chance to, Google some of this inclement weather, and let's think about what we can do differently to try to help. Because, you think that every little bit doesn't help, but every little bit does. And if we all do it, it will be a world of change. But I thank you for joining me. If you like what you see here on this channel, it would be a great honor for you to like and subscribe or leave a comment. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.